Kamala Harris is with us from home. Thank you for letting us in your home via Zoom. Welcome back to The Issue Is.
It's the home where I work. Home is California. I am in D.C. because I just felt the need to be here until we get a next package of relief done.
Let's talk about that next package of relief. We are looking at another stimulus bill in Congress. I know one thing you want is recurring payments for people. Right now we got that one-time check for many folks, $1,200. You want this to be a recurring payment. How would that work?
Well, it will work in a way that actually meets the needs of American families and working people. One-time payment of $1,200 is not going to deal with the fact that all of the 16 million people who lost their jobs and others have bills that they have to pay every month. And until we get through this crisis, we need to make sure that people don't completely fall down in terms of their ability to meet their monthly essential obligations like feeding their children and paying the rent. And so I feel very strongly that we have a responsibility to help people who are doing what we have told them is in the best interest of public health, which is to stay at home. And so I'm one arguing for recurrent payments. I'm also arguing that when I'm calling on the end and suspension, basically, of credit card interest payments, penalties, and fees, because during this moment of crisis, and so I'm saying that they should be suspended, charging people interest, penalties or fees for the next 120 days, because again, 16 million people out of a job just in the last few weeks. A lot of folks don't have savings and are going to end up having to pay for groceries on their credit cards. And no one should be profiting off of their desperation to be able to feed their children and get through the end of the month. And so I'm calling on that. I'm also calling on the credit reporting in terms of negative credit scores to be suspended for 120 days. Because again, a lot of people are just not going to pay their bills on time. They want to, they have a history of doing it, and they're not during this crisis because they are out of work. And once someone's credit score gets a negative rating, it can take a lifetime to repair. And we should not be doing that to people. We should be putting them in a position where when this pandemic is over, they can get back on their feet and have a life where they can be healthy and successful, both physically and financially.
Let's talk for a moment more about the credit card aspect of this. What are credit card companies saying to you?
Listen, I've heard a lot of support for what we're saying, because listen, when you look at the credit rate, the interest rates that people are paying in the 20 percentile rate range, that it's already exorbitant. And again, the reality is for 120 days, we need to give working people and consumers an ability to get through this pandemic without completely falling apart financially. And so it's only right and it's only fair. And again, no one should be profiting off of the pain and the suffering that people are having right now. Businesses have had to shut down. 50% of Americans either run a small business or work in a small business. And that could be the local barbershop or beauty shop. It could be the local restaurant. Many are family operations, meaning either it's blood relatives who work there or it is just a family of folks. And they're out of work right now. And people have got to find a way. And we should be, as their government, giving people the support so that they don't completely fall through the cracks during this pandemic that, of course, was not of their making.
You know, it was remarkable to see a $2 trillion piece of legislation pass 96-0 in the Senate. We're talking about the last stimulus. In terms of the next stimulus, are we seeing those typical partisan lines being drawn? Are we seeing agreement? What's the status of it?
Well, it is my hope and my prayer that we're going to be able to approach this in a nonpartisan way. And it doesn't need to be said, but I'll say it. This pandemic, COVID-19, could care less about the party with which you're registered to vote. And we need to act. And so one of the things that we're arguing for and I'm arguing for is in the next bill, in a couple of the last bills, we made sure that testing would be free. Let's also make sure that treatment is going to be free. As we go forward, let's make sure we're giving more support to small businesses, because again, that last bill was born out of the urgency of the moment, but it was not sufficient to meet the needs of our small business owners and the people who work for small businesses. Let's deal with, again, the paid sick leave issue. 2/3 of low-income workers in America do not get paid sick leave or paid family leave. And that's just a defect in our system. So there are a number of things that we're going to be fighting for as we go forward, including what we need to do around getting PPEs, personal protective equipment, to our healthcare workers who are among the heroes of this moment. Let's not forget that they're going to work every day as they truly believe in their mission and in their calling to save lives. But unlike those health professionals that go to work during a war and deal with trauma, these healthcare professionals are going to work every day, not only being exposed to trauma, but being exposed to health risks for themselves and their families, and they're still going to work every day. So these are the kinds of things we have to fight for. And sadly, frankly, there's been a vacuum of leadership coming out of the administration in this regard. It's been falling on mayors and governors. In California, we should applaud the work of Governor Newsom, mayors like Mayor Garcetti, in San Francisco, London Breed. I could go down the list. I speak with the mayors on a pretty constant basis. But there is still a lot of work to be done, and we are still not adequately as a country meeting the moment in terms of the crisis that is in full swing.
It was a remarkable moment this week when President Trump said that Governor Newsom has been a tremendous leader on this. What do you think that President Trump could learn from Governor Newsom and California's example?
You can learn a lot of things from both the governor, but also the mayors. I mean, Garcetti, Breed, they have had the courage to meet the moment in terms of the crisis, and their shoulders have been quite broad in terms of how they have carried the weight of this moment. And so let's talk about what exactly qualities of leadership look like in a moment of crisis. One, it's the ability to embrace fact and then speak truth, no matter how uncomfortable it may make people. It is the ability, in the case of a public health crisis, to embrace science and then act in the interest of the people as opposed to self-interest. And what we have seen in the true leaders in this moment is an ability to do all of that with the courage it takes, often with political consequence. It's not popular when mayors and governors start talking about shutting things down. But as we now know, nationally, people are looking at the leadership we've seen in California as a model for what should have been done or still can be done. And I have nothing but praise and pride for the work that our California elected leaders have been doing.
Well, let's speak some truth. The presidential campaign itself sort of ended this week, or one aspect of it. Bernie Sanders is out. Joe Biden is going to be the nominee. The Washington Post came out with a ranking of who's most likely to be VP, and number one was Senator Kamala Harris of California. So I'm wondering, has the vetting process begun, and have there been any conversations between you and the Biden campaign?
I have to be very honest with you. I am not focused on that. I am not focused on that at all. Listen, every single day in America right now, people are dying. The latest numbers, 455,000 Americans have contracted this virus. Over 16,000 people have died. Just in the last few weeks, 16 million people have lost their jobs. This is happening in real time. I want to be home right now in California. I am in Washington, D.C. right now, because this needs to be addressed, and leaders have got to lead in the post in which they occupy. And for me, that means working on what we need to do, calling on the suspension of credit card interest rates. It means calling for greater SNAP benefits. Why? Because SNAP benefits are supposed to feed hungry children, and we need to increase the benefits. It's about calling on the ICE and the Department of Homeland Security to say, release folks who don't pose a threat to the community, and pregnant women and the elderly and people who have health conditions, if they don't pose a threat to their community. This is the work that needs to happen in real time right now. This pandemic is not going to wait. And it is current. It is a moment of crisis, and we need to meet the crisis. And that's where I'm focused. I have to be honest with you. That is exactly where I am focused.
Although I know you did make a brief appearance on a fundraising call for Joe Biden this week. And I know, don't you believe that the next president and vice president, this is going to be one of the most important parts of what their job is going to be, leading the country. And the vision that the Democrats are putting forward and the Republicans are putting forward are very different in terms of the long-term response to this.
You're absolutely right. And I think we say this every cycle, but truly the moment of this crisis is I think highlighting that elections matter. Who hold these positions, who holds the position of being president of the United States, it matters. Yes, I am supporting Joe Biden for good reason. I believe in him. He has met crisis in his career head on. He has embraced science with his Moonshot initiative, which was all about embracing science around curing illness and cancer. He was with President Obama when they turned our economy around after the Great Recession and during the Great Recession. And we also need leaders who see people and feel and understand the struggle and the pain. Joe Biden is a person who cares and has empathy in a way that really informs how he goes about the work he does. And we need a president of the United States who sees what's happening and understands that seeing the people is not about looking in the mirror. It's about understanding who the people are and then figuring out what their needs are and meeting their needs in real time. So I am very proud to support Joe Biden because, we are going to need a president who, after this, God willing, this pandemic has passed, who can help us get back on our feet. Joe Biden has a track record of doing that, and I believe he will be the most effective in doing it at this moment.
Sounded like a persuasive pitch. I like to have fun on this show, too. Ask you one fun question. Last time we talked, you talked about how much you love cooking at home. Have you gotten more time to do that, or is there anything else that you've been doing during the quarantine? I know you've been working like 24/7, but is there any binge shows, anything that you've done in quarantine lifestyle?
Oh, quarantine lifestyle. We definitely, I have assigned my husband Wednesdays and Saturdays to cook because I cannot cook every day. I love cooking. Saturday is chores, in addition to all the work we're doing. And, we've been binge watching a couple of shows. I mean, Tiger King. What a hot mess. And I've been hearing great things about Ozark. So at some point we'll get into that and actually watched Forrest Gump the other night last weekend. And it was so great. So, and playing music. Oh, like turn off cable news and play some music and just find a way to, and then I find myself picking up the phone and calling people more than texting if I can. I think it's so important to hear laughter, instead of just reading LOL. And so those are the things. But I know we're all trying to make it work. And my advice to everyone and my plea is just be kind to yourself and be patient with yourself and each other. We talk about social isolation, but let's make sure there's no emotional isolation. Let's reach out to our single friends, reach out to, our friends who are the elders in our community and those in our family. Because even though we're being told to isolate, and that's the smart thing to do to fight this public health crisis, nobody should feel alone.
Right.
So that's the most important thing I can say right now.
We're going to talk more about that with Maria Shriver and Patrick Schwarzenegger right out of the break. And one thing that you and I agree on, we both love to dance. And so we're going to play a little bit of music. I will say this, Senator. This is you with the drum line, with the K-Hive. I'm not allowed to endorse candidates, but I will endorse that you are the best dancer of all the candidates that we've seen in the last year. We love the way you move. And so a reminder of simpler times and better times to get us through this. Senator Kamala Harris, thank you so much.
Thank you.
More of The Issue Is right after this.